Welcome to the Learning League podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Powell, owner of Learn to Engage. My guest today is Josh Rudometkin, owner of multiple construction companies, and a leader who turned a broken team culture into a high-performing one by learning to understand people differently. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, Cheryl. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. Why don't we get started with the business challenge? So take me back to what was going on inside the company.
Well, as you described it, learning to understand people differently, that's a long process. It's a painful process. People are the backbone of any business, really, and you might have a good product, and we did have a good product, but communicating between management individuals and customers was
Mm,
oftentimes broken.
mm,
Communication within the business itself between managers was broken, and
mm.
I, as an owner, I saw what was going on, and I said, "Geez, something's got to change. Something's got to change, or we're going to lose what we have." So
Wow.
um,
And what
it
was
was a long process.
happening with that, with the communication breakdown? Were people leaving or what happened?
People were leaving. People were also being removed from their jobs.
Mm,
There's a couple of things that are critical in business, and communication is one of them. If
yeah.
individuals don't communicate well, then their position has to be evaluated. And if they're just a poor communicator, then either they have to be moved elsewhere or educated and trained to satisfactorily do their job.
Yeah. And when people don't communicate well, it also causes a lot of conflict, sometimes even within teams.
Without a doubt, there's numerous occasions where customers would reach out to me and say, "Hey, Josh, your guys showed up today and they were not supposed to show up today," or "Your
Mm,
guys didn't show up today and they were supposed to show up today." And then we would trace a source and realize, "Hey, this came down to a simple communication breakdown."
wow.
Um, and those things once or twice you can work through them, but
Yeah,
over the long term, the result is damage. Anytime a
mm,
relationship is damaged, that's a new relationship you have to go find. That's expensive,
exactly.
and it's a bad perception on business as well.
Yeah, you mentioned expensive. How much was it actually costing you? Because it's not just time, but like you said, real business impact. You have an example?
Oh, definitely. So you said it right, Cheryl. It's not just time, though. We're paying salaries for managers, and salaries range 80, 90 to $100,000 a year.
Right.
So the salary that is misused is very expensive, but
Mm,
then there's a large handful of customers on projects that would range from 20 to $30,000 that were regularly giving poor feedback directly due to poor communication,
mm,
all the way up to $150,000. And they're like, "Josh, you've got to get your guys to communicate with us better." So it did. It
wow.
took a lot of self reflection. It took a lot of like, "Hey guys, how can we achieve?" The customers are giving us feedback. The feedback they're giving us is good. How can we rise up to the challenge of communicating better?
And even with customers, right? Like lost sales, lost customers. I'm sure you have like examples of that for sure. If all that was going on.
Without a doubt, there's one customer specific where one year they were a leading customer for us. We did
Mhm.
about $400,000 in re-roofs
Wow.
throughout a 12-month span, which is a decent customer. And there just comes a point where they say, "Hey, Josh, we've got to find somebody new," and
Wow.
that means we go from 400,000 in receivables to zero with
Yeah.
this specific customer. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
cost is extreme, and then having to replace that customer, the cost gets even more so than that.
Was that the turning point for you that made you say something has to change?
I would say so. Yes. Let me re-answer that question. So your question was that the turning point?
Hmm.
The turning point was when customers would reach out to me and say, Josh, we can't do business with you guys anymore if you can't communicate well. When
Mm,
customers give you that level of clear feedback,
yeah.
then a change has to be made.
Right.
Product can change, material can change, that can change just by ordering differently. But communication is an education process. And when a customer
Yeah.
gives you that level of clarity, then a turning point is very necessary.
Yeah, because it sounds like it was all throughout the company, no matter what level, it sounds like just staff at all levels needed some intervention when it came to communication.
Yeah, Cheryl, intervention is a good way to put it because it's not like phones were turned off and emails weren't answered. What it
Sure.
was ineffective communication. That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
what it came down to. Is the customer hearing what we're trying to tell them? And
Yeah.
is it that they're not listening, or is it that we are not telling them in a way that they're going to hear and then
Yeah.
relate over to their teams? And that's really what it came down to was personal reflection and understanding how this particular customer needs to be communicated with. Some like phone
Yeah.
calls, some like text messages, some like emails, some like all three. And that's a simple explanation, but communicating to a customer in a way that they're going to hear us and a result is produced. That's what we had to
Yeah.
dive deep on.
And I think the most important thing is when a customer calls and does make a complaint that's clear that they should only have to do it that one time. And I think in your situation, you were saying what you're trying to say, I think I'm understanding, is that more than once is not acceptable because then the customer's feeling like they're not being heard and they're going to go elsewhere.
Definitely. I agree with that statement. The customers would call in once or twice, and you want to believe in your team.
Sure.
You
Everyone
want to
does.
believe in your managers. You want to believe in self promotion, but then there comes a point where high level managers have to understand, hey, I have to intervene here. It
Yeah.
sounds as though I have to get involved, and I need to help. There's kitchen fires and dumpster fires. A dumpster fire
Yeah.
doesn't have to require the owner's attention.
Yeah.
The mid level managers can handle that. A kitchen fire's got to be put out right away, or that's
Right.
going to spread. So,
Yeah. That's a
as a
great
manager, being able
analogy.
to understand that difference.
Did this change the way that you hired or led your teams in any way?
Yes, it did. The original hiring process was looking for anybody who would really show up consistently to a job. The qualifications were uh, dependability, at least showing up, and a
Okay.
willingness to want to learn, and and that was that those traits are important. It is important to
Right.
be dependable and willing to do a project, to do a job. But there's also more to it than just that. The willingness has to match with ability. You can
Right.
want to be a good communicator, but if you don't have the ability to communicate well, then you're going to fail at your job. And I would say that is where our hiring process has changed is the willingness and desire has to be there. And now there's
Right.
processes in place, there's evaluations in place, there's assessments in place to say,
Right.
hey, you're this type of individual. Let's explore the way that you communicate. You like to go to business, and then let's give you enough information and education to where you understand as quickly as you can the type of person that you're working with on the other side of the phone. That way you can
Right.
communicate to them in a manner that they're going to hear you and the way that you intend to communicate.
So how you say that there was some personal reflection and that's how you tackled this issue. Can you dive deeper into that? What did you mean by that?
So a leader has a leadership style, and a leadership style we all want to think is effective,
Hmm.
but if it's not being received, if you evaluate your team and if you realize that the team is not performing how you want them to perform,
Mhm.
then a high level of responsibility has to be taken. You have to realize that maybe my leadership isn't as strong
Mhm.
as it needs to be, or it's
Mhm.
not as good or effective as it needs to be. The
Mhm.
personal reflection is a humbling experience where you have to come to a point and say, what I'm doing is not working, or
Yeah.
it's not working good enough.
Right.
So I have to make a change in order to affect change on my team. So
Okay.
the personal reflection was an understanding of my leadership style and how I'm able to apply my leadership style or slightly change my leadership style in order to
Mm.
fit the team that I have in place. There's places where I'm strong and team members are weak, and they share strengths and weaknesses as well. How can we blend these strengths and weaknesses together to fill up low spots, to fill up missing
Mm.
pieces? And that's a long-term personal reflection period,
Yes.
and then a team understanding as well, understanding what you have in place.
Yeah. Self-awareness is definitely something that's critical for leaders to continue to tackle on an ongoing basis and build up their knowledge base. Look at your personal biases. How are you interpreting conversations? Um, so, did you do any certifications or anything like that? Or because I was talking about education with personalities or anything like that?
I did. I personally had a DISC assessment done for myself, and I had the debrief afterward. And
Oh.
some of these things you hear somebody explaining, somebody who doesn't know you, they explain
Mm.
you. You have a
Mm.
tendency to be a little bit more dominant in conversations, Josh. And you think back and you're like, wow, I really do. I do have a
Yeah.
tendency for that. And
Huh.
how is that going to be perceived with somebody of maybe an opposite personality trait?
Mm.
So I had DISC done on myself, and I
Wow.
love the psychology behind buying, behind selling, behind general living. So I did. I pursued personality assessments, and I got certified to do these personality assessments on my own,
Oh,
and
wow.
that yeah, that is a tremendous personal resource for
Mm.
understanding people quickly. If you're in a
Yeah.
sale opportunity, you have to quickly understand how this individual buys, how this
Yeah.
individual operates. And that's an invaluable experience.
And I'm assuming how to behave, because there's verbal communication and non-verbal communication. So some people would need, I guess, certain behaviors to see certain behaviors in the communication to feel comfortable. I guess that would be the customer salesperson type of relationship. It's all very fascinating. I could actually talk about that all day. But how did you pass this education along to your staff?
So after I completed the assessment, I then got the staff to do their own personal assessments as well,
Mm.
and their debrief. And
Mm.
we worked on manager level, and that's an opportunity for us to answer questions honestly and
Yeah.
then have a debrief done and then meet in a room together. It's a safe room, right? We're talking about some interpersonal
Sure.
uh, maybe issues that we're maybe aware of or not aware of. One thing that I can speak to personally is I'm oftentimes more dominant and slightly less influencing. And
Hmm.
I believed myself to be more influencing and less dominant. So when I'm told, Josh, you're more on a dominant side, I can either reject it and say that this evaluation is not true, or I can
Okay.
take that as information about myself and not change my being. I am who I am, and it doesn't have to change. But if we want to all participate in a healthy society, then we
Mm.
have to get to a point where we understand, yeah, there's some things that have to be modified. If
Yeah.
I want to speak well with you, Cheryl, I can't come into a space and try to dominate the space. And That is
Yeah.
a point that a salesperson, a manager, of any level has to get to. If I want my leadership to be heard, how do I need to communicate to the person I'm communicating to?
Yeah.
That's a very critical, important
It's
piece
a
for
give and take. It certainly is. It's a any relationship has to have compromise. So you sometimes you have to give a little. It's like when I'm in a relationship with someone and they're into football. Well, I'm going to watch football even though I have no idea what's going on. I'm going
Sure,
to
meet them
watch
where
it
they're
with
at,
them.
Cheryl. I love the idea. Meet them where they're at. My wife, she tried to tell me
Mm,
without telling me, honey, you're dominant sometimes. The way you speak is dominant. And I
right.
realized after following this disc assessment, I speak with my hands a lot. And she
Oh,
doesn't like to see me speaking with my hands. It looked
I
like an
see.
over aggressive type of
Right.
communication. And then if I speak with my wife about that, who's my safest relationship,
Mhm.
what am I doing and how am I being perceived to customers and also my team? So that
Sure.
was part of the evaluation process and small changes, modifications, trying to
Yeah.
be effective is the goal.
And when you started applying this, was there a sign that you saw that something had actually changed in the company?
Most definitely, there was a sign, and I'll speak personally about this again. There was an opportunity, a sale opportunity,
Okay.
where a customer approached me, and normally I would have written this customer off as I would have red flagged this customer. We all have
Mhm.
that type of person that we say no, thank you. This
Yeah.
individual I would have red flagged, and I was prepared to red flag, but then my training kicked in, and I
Mhm.
realized, wait a second, the buying process that this individual has is very thorough. Very
Mm.
dot your I's, cross your T's with the
Okay.
proper pen stroke and
Mm.
pressure. Very, very thorough. And I was able to come to an understanding of that. And I changed my mindset from problem to this is just his process. Am I
Okay.
willing to go with his process? And I
Yes.
did. It was hard for me to do, but I
Mhm.
followed his process. And we ended
Okay.
up getting a $40,000 sale out
Yeah.
of following his process, where
Mm.
2 3 months before I would have said no. So
Yes.
there was immediate buyback.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's huge. Did you notice a reduction in customer complaints coming through at
The
all?
customer complaints were reduced,
Okay.
and we also went through two operations managers, and
Okay.
after going and training, doing personality training, doing
Right.
communication training, doing effective communication and team building,
Mm-hmm.
um, I've learned where I need to be involved and where other
Okay.
managers need to be involved. And
Okay.
now we're working with an operations manager who is working and thriving and growing into a position rather
Mm.
than being dictated on what to do.
Right.
Independent growth is so much better than demanded growth.
Oh my
It's
goodness,
so
yes.
much more thorough,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes communication and two-sided teams to
Yeah.
understand that. And I can happily say that that's how we are working now. And the
Yeah.
product is great, the result is great, the team atmosphere and the team culture has
Mm-hmm.
significantly improved. It just took buy-in is really what it
Wow.
took.
So let me ask you what you would say to a business owner or manager who's listening right now and they've written someone off because they seem like a problem. What would you say to them?
I would say ask a lot more questions. Ask yourself
Mm.
questions. Why did you write this person off as a problem?
Right.
What is your determining factor on why this person is a problem?
Mm.
Are you hearing them properly? Are you hearing them
Right.
effectively? Are you clear with your communication over to this customer?
Yeah.
Is this a real problem or a perceived problem? What are some of your baseline goals that you want to achieve as a business? Does this customer align with those goals or do they not? If they do align with those goals, if you can understand their process better, then I would suggest taking a second look before writing them off as a problem. There are problems. There's no doubt about that. But you have to ask a lot of effective questions and get to a deep level of understanding of what are real problems. And is this individual a real problem or just a perceived problem?
Yeah, there's a lot of personal biases that we all have that we're not even aware of. And they have nothing to do with, most of the time, nothing to do with culture or race or anything. It has to do with how we were raised, what our experiences are as a person through life, and we just develop them. And so self-awareness that's why it's so critical to work on as a leader. So those are excellent points, excellent advice. If you were starting this whole process over again today, what would you do differently or sooner?
Experiential learning is effective, but it's also the most expensive. And I've unfortunately gone through a very, very expensive amount of experiential learning. I would do more education sooner. The point that we're at now is effective. I would have liked to have been there 5 years ago. So I would have gotten into understanding why they buy, understanding why we sell, and doing. So many businesses say that the people are our greatest asset, but what does that really mean? And how are you applying that to your business? I would ask myself that question. Do you believe that people are your most important asset? And then I would ask, how are you applying that principle in your day-to-day business? And if I don't have a clear answer, then that means that I'm probably not valuing my people as my number one asset. One of the most dynamic teachings that I went through is if you look at somebody, put a 10 on their forehead. Look at them as they're a 10. And when they told me this, I had some self-reflection. I thought, Josh, you don't do that. As you had mentioned, Cheryl, there's personal biases. You might see somebody in dirty shorts and say, this guy can't afford my service. You're immediately devaluing the ability of that individual.
Exactly.
So it took serious amount of, hold on a second, Josh, put a 10 on this person's forehead and treat them like they're a 10. Treat everyone like they're a 10.
Josh, this has been such a valuable conversation. Just thinking about the shift that you made from blaming the people to understanding the people is exactly the type of leadership story other business owners and executives need to hear. Thank you so much for being on the Learning League podcast today.
Thanks for having me, Cheryl. This really has provided value to my day too. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, where can people learn more about you and the work that you do?
Great, Cheryl. So my company, it's called Roof Service Providers. We provide roofing solutions to homeowners and property managers of any and all sizes. You can find us online at roofserviceproviders.com. Send a general inquiry. It goes straight to my inbox and my manager's inbox, and we'll be happy to communicate about roofing, about leadership, and whatever is working for us and how you can apply it to you. We're an open book, so feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much. And thanks to my listeners for tuning in to the Learning League podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more valuable conversations on learning and leadership. Now it's time to take it home. What Josh described today wasn't just a culture problem. It was a communication problem that was hiding in plain sight. Customers were leaving, managers were failing, and for a long time the assumption was that it was a people quality issue. It wasn't. It was a leadership awareness issue. 3 things to take with you today. Number 1, the most expensive education is the one you wait on. I think Josh said it best. Experiential learning is effective, but it is also the most expensive. He wished he had invested in understanding people 5 years sooner. If you've been putting off leadership development or communication training because things seem manageable, that waiting has a price tag. Josh lost a $400,000 customer before the turning point came. Number 2, self-awareness is not a soft skill. It's a business skill. When Josh went through his own assessment and realized he was more dominant than he thought, he didn't reject it, he used it. He changed how he showed up with his team, his customers, and even at home. That kind of honest self-reflection is what separates leaders who grow from leaders who keep cycling through the same problems with different people. Number 3, put a 10 on their forehead. I have to admit, this one stayed with me. Josh talked about a teaching that changed how he sized people up, treat everyone like they're a 10. Not because everyone is perfect, but because your assumptions about people, your biases, your quick reads, they're costing you more than you know. Josh closed a $40,000 sale he would have normally walked away from because he stopped labeling the customer as a problem and started following their process instead. Here's what I'd add. If your team keeps struggling with communication, with turnover, or with managers who aren't landing the way you need them to, the issue is rarely the people. It is usually the system around them. That is exactly the kind of work we do at Learn to Engage. And if you've solved a problem like this inside your own organization and you'd like to share your story on the Learning League podcast, I would love to hear from you. Reach out at learn2engage.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Follow and subscribe so you don't miss the next amazing conversation. Until next time.